Welcome to Small Talk with Kenya and Dawn. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Kenya.
So we are here with part 4 of our relationship series in communication. This will be the final one for tonight on communication. So where we left off was talking about the words that we use. So when me and my husband met and we were getting to know each other, and we asked, hey, what's your trigger words? What's something that you don't like? What's something that you don't want to hear? What's something that bothers you? His thing was, don't ever slap me. Don't loud talk me, and don't slap me across my face. I have adhered to that. Now I may have raised my voice a little bit, but I don't slap him. I've never slapped him before. And my thing was, don't ever call me out of my name. If you can't call me Dawn, sweetie, baby, something of affection, don't call me out of my name.
Yeah.
Now that's a, I don't like it, okay? I'm just gonna say, I don't like that. So when you and your husband met, did you talk about anything like that?
We did. He's always said to me, don't loud talk me. Don't do that. Don't try to check me in front of people. And I think sometimes I crossed the line a little bit because I had that emotion tied to it. But that's exactly what I said. Please don't call me out my name, and don't put your hands on me.
Okay, we definitely not gonna do that. But think about just how disrespectful that is. And you know, in this day and age, we hear women calling each other the B word all the time, and they say, oh, well, we just playing, we just mean it like that. Guess what? It's gonna come a point in time where you really don't mean it in a playing manner, but you're gonna mean it to be serious. And for me, I don't play with any of my friends like that. My friends, I don't allow them to play with me that way. You cannot call me that word. You can't call me anything but Dawn. If you feel like it's gonna move in that direction, it's best for us just to separate at that point in time, because you're not gonna be disrespectful to me in that way. But there are men that will call a woman out of their name, and there are husbands that call their wives out of their name. There are wives that call their husbands out of their name. For me, I don't like that.
I can't do it.
That's some disrespect on that level, because to me, you're showing me what you think of me, what you really feel about me.
Absolutely.
And you're okay to say it in anger. It's not okay for you to say it to me, period. At all.
Yeah.
But I just feel like when you're saying things, because you can say something to be hurtful to someone and not degrade them in that way.
Yeah.
To me, when you call a woman a B,
I can't even fathom.
it makes my blood boil.
Yeah, it's too offensive. I can't do it. I can't.
How can a husband call his wife out of her name like that?
So that extension of you, how can you do that?
How do you do it?
I can't fathom. Oh God, I just thank you. My husband has never spoken to me in that way.
Mine either.
Has never spoke. I can't even in a heated argument, I can't even remember him ever disrespecting me in that way. And I just can't imagine. I don't even know how I would respond to that. It's just gonna be so outside of my character of who I have become.
Yeah. That would be a pearl clutching moment for me.
Ooh,
because I can't do that.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I can't do it. I can't imagine something like that happening.
Yeah.
I really cannot imagine that. It wouldn't be a good day in our household.
No.
It would not. That would be, let me walk away.
Yeah.
That would be a walk away moment for sure for me. Because I'm seeing what's in your heart about me.
And I don't even know if I could recover from that.
I don't know
Because exactly. that's really how you feel
Mm-hmm.
because you said it.
Yeah.
I just can't even. I don't even know how I would put the words together to say that to my husband. I can't imagine how that would make him feel
Mm-hmm.
to speak to him in that manner.
No. And you know, women can say things. They can call a man out of their name.
Yeah.
And be very, very hurtful.
Yeah.
And there's also some things that a woman can say to attack their manhood. Now, I'm not going to go into that,
Yeah.
but there's
Yeah.
a lot
Mm-hmm.
that a woman could say
Mm-hmm.
to attack them
Yeah.
and make them feel like they are crawling on the ground.
Yeah.
We can't communicate with each other that way.
Mm-mm. And it takes a lot for a man to recover from that.
Ooh, does he ever recover? Because in the back of his mind, he's probably thinking, she's been thinking this.
I'll never.
I would never.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's what you've been, and you've been holding that
Mm-hmm.
in your arsenal
Mm-hmm.
for a long time,
Right.
just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can't imagine.
We cannot communicate like that. That's not effective. That's not uplifting.
And you know the thing is too, I know just watching my grandparents' marriage, I know that was a different time,
Mm-hmm.
but some things are just off limits.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you've been married for 50 years and you've been doing it this way for 50 years or
Mhm.
whatever, there's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And again, I go back to, if we're still doing the same thing we were doing at 25, now at 50, there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
If my vernacular is the same, there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Even in just talking about communication period in the other few episodes, why are we still having the same kind of conversation? Are we actually growing and maturing in our
Mhm.
marriage?
Mm-hmm.
Or we still having the same minute conversation at 22? We thought it was a deep conversation.
Yeah.
We laughing at that conversation
Mhm.
now, because I just think as we get older and our relationships get older,
Mm-hmm.
we should have some deep things to discuss,
Mhm.
thought-provoking things to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to pull from that is, I feel like that's an immaturity.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Holy Spirit. I think that's how you feel about yourself. Because in reality, you are.
Yeah.
Because in that image, your language is limited
Mm-hmm.
to how you feel.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes,
Mhm.
it is. And it should be so much more that you could say. A lot of better things that you're
Yeah.
able to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But honestly, I think sometimes you gotta have some want to.
And there it is.
You gotta
It's-
have that.
You have got to want, and again, if you don't, now we're just back to coexisting.
Mhm.
We're just doing something to be doing.
Just to do it.
What was the point? And you know the thing is too, I keep this in the forefront of my mind, kind of like a heart check for me.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I want my kids to look at us
Mm-hmm.
and say about our marriage?
Mm-hmm.
And even when I am blessed with grandchildren, I want my grandchildren to grow old and say, you know, my grandparents, they had a beautiful marriage.
Mm.
They had a loving marriage.
Mhm.
You know, what our relationship, what our marriage what our communication, you know, what it sounds like. I
Mhm.
want our kids to be able to want that.
Mhm.
But as you just said, you gotta have some want to.
Yep.
Because in order to get to that point, it's some work required.
That's right.
And it's not easy.
That's right.
Because the hardest part is transforming me.
That's right.
I
On the
gotta
inside,
change. I gotta
you
change.
gotta change it from the inside. You gotta want to
I gotta
change it
wanna change
from the
it.
inside.
Man.
You know, okay, so what about our communication with our children?
Ooh. Dawn, that is so. I think I said this before. our communication with our children is so important.
Mm-hmm.
It is so important for us to learn how to communicate with our children. And my son said it best. We've got to learn. We have to talk. We have to parent our children from where they are now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just. I remember, even just the other day, we were just talking and laughing. I kept saying, "Shut up, Trey. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up." He was like, "Mama, tell me to shut up again." In my mind, I know he ain't checking me. But I said, I'm no longer talking to 10-year-old Trey. I'm talking to a 21-year-old grown man. I can't say what I want to say to him. And if I can't communicate properly with my son, I don't need to be talking to him. Because at some point we think that title we carry as mother, we can just speak to our children any old kind of way. And that is not so.
Yeah.
And I know we're talking about communication, and this is a huge part of it. Sometimes we have to go and apologize without condition.
There you go.
To our children because we recklessly spoke to them. And just as we talked about how we tear down our husbands, we're tearing our children down.
That's right.
And I'm going to say this, as women, as parents, as wives, even I'm going to give it to the husbands as well. We have a responsibility to make sure that our communication with our children is just as appropriate as we are checking ourselves with our spouse. Because, like I just said, I'm not talking to 10-year-old Dawn. I'm talking to grown Dawn. I'm talking to grown Dawn. So, you know, and even I always tell, you know, I think about this when I'm having a conversation with people and they're saying, well, I'm not apologizing to my child. I'm like, why? Because you offended your child. And I tell them, my daughter is married and lives in our own house. But I have had to apologize to her for parenting her with the only thing I had at that moment. But now that I've learned better, I have to apologize because I did it wrong. And I don't come with the condition, I'm sorry, but that's all I knew at the time. She understands that because she knew. But I have to sincerely apologize and say, I am sorry for what I did to you. There's no excuse for it. But when we sincerely communicate that, we can move on from that. It's not coming up trying to slap us in the face every so often. And every time I talk to you, I got some resentment because this thing is reminding me, oh, she offended you 10 years ago, and she's still making an excuse for it. So now I gotta wholeheartedly not tear my child down. I have a responsibility to build her up, to help her be better. I have a responsibility.
Because it's going to carry over into their relationships.
Absolutely.
They're never going to learn that it's okay to apologize because it seems like our children mimic our behavior.
Yes, they do.
And it's going to continue unless you show them a better example of how a parent, how a wife, how a husband should act and react.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We have a responsibility.
We do, because not only in our household, but we're sending them out in the world with this.
Yes.
We're sending our children out to their jobs, to school with these things, to their friends with stuff. You know, a lot of children and adults, not just kids, but adults, don't have friends because they don't know how to communicate with people.
Oh my goodness. Yes. That reckless communication. Corrupt communication. We think we can implode that on anybody.
I remember having a conversation with this lady, and she said, you know, when something was out there, she would just, you know, say what was on her mind. And she said, I don't care how it comes out, I'm going to say it. This is my opinion. This is how I feel, and I'm going to say it. And I said, And she was looking at me, and I said, well, who asked you?
Right. Right.
Who asked you for it?
Right.
Especially if it had nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you feel like you have to insert your opinion in anything?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's asking you.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, oh, I never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why don't you wait to be invited into a conversation instead of just inserting yourself into it?
Oh. But again, what examples have she seen?
I don't know.
And in that moment, you took, that was a teachable moment. That was a teachable
I
moment.
said it before. I thought
She needed it.
I said it so quick. And I was like, because it kind of threw me when she was talking. And I was like, is she really saying that?
Yeah. And but in her mind, that has always been okay.
It's always been her way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not right.
It's not right.
And you weren't saying something that was helping the situation.
Right.
You just was, okay, well, this is my opinion, and I don't care if it hurts you or not.
Right.
There was no construction in there at all. It was, no, this was destruction.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Tearing it all down.
Tearing it down.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
That's not. It's not.
That,
It's not. Oh my
that
God.
was not fair.
But that was a teachable moment.
And I think it made her think
Mhm.
before she inserted herself into another conversation.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's one thing when when you're in a group of people and you and I are talking and then somebody else is over here,
Mhm.
but I'm like, well, hold on.
Right.
We weren't talking to you.
Absolutely.
And we didn't ask for your opinion. We're talking right here.
Right.
But a lot of times people will throw themselves into a conversation and they're like, hey, I need to say this
Yeah.
because you're able to communicate.
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily mean that your communication is wanted, nor is it needed.
It's needed. Mm-mm.
So be careful with that. And our children
Mhm.
are listening,
Absolutely.
they're watching,
Mhm.
and they are absorbing how we communicate, the things that we say,
Mhm.
things that we do. They're watching how our body language is. They're watching the eye rolls. They're watching the neck rolls. They're watching, the snapping of the fingers and, all of that kind of stuff. They're watching those things. That's not fair. I'm going to answer, that's not fair to our kids because honestly, we are setting them up for failure. We're not setting our kids up for success.
Absolutely.
We're not setting our households up for success.
Mhm.
We're not setting up our marriages for success. We're not setting up our relationships in general with whoever it is for success.
Absolutely.
That is destruction at its finest.
Every way you look at it.
Yeah, be careful with what you say. Be careful how you say it. But in your relationships, take that time, take that opportunity to have those conversations, talk to one another, and be there for one another when someone is speaking and you need to just listen.
Yeah.
Just do that for each other. Just be there for one another. So if you feel like you are losing communication within your marriage, your relationship, talk to somebody else.
Please.
And say, you know what, hey, we're not communicating like what we used to. Have you guys ever had this problem before? A lot of times people will open up because they've had those same experiences that what you are experiencing right now. And I'll tell you another thing. Ask God to place that person in your path.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
And let it be a person to where you are able to pick something out of them.
Yes.
And it's good stuff
Good stuff.
to apply to your relationship, especially to your marriage, and especially to your household with your children.
Yes.
What else you got tonight?
I'm just gonna say communication is gonna sound cliche, but communication is key.
Mm-hmm.
It is so important for us to have respectable conversations.
Mhm.
It is so important for us to respect each other's opinion and feelings on things.
Mm-hmm.
And I only think that adds value to our
Mhm.
marriage. When we literally understand and can hear each other with our hearts, it adds value.
It does add value. And let me say this, because this just hit me. is if you are having trouble in your marriage, there may be another man or another woman that's out there where you're saying, well, I can talk to them easy.
That's the enemy.
That's the enemy.
That's the enemy.
Recognize what that is. That's the enemy. And just as easy as you're talking to what Satan has pushed your way, you can talk to your spouse
Absolutely.
in that same exact way.
Absolutely.
It just may look a little nicer because it's new. But trust me,
The grass is not always green.
it's not always greener on the other side. Don't let yourself get involved in that.
Absolutely.
Because, like we talked before about how we have offended God. And then when you get into that, when you dive into that, you have completely broken covenant.
Yes.
And that relationship that you've had with that spouse, that 5-year relationship, that 10-year relationship, that 17-year relationship, that 30-year plus relationship, that thing is gone completely out the window. You can head it off before it really snowballs into something and you can't come back from.
Right.
So be careful. Be mindful of the things and the people that are sent your way.
Yeah.
And if it feels good, what's it saying? If it feels good to you, it's not always good for you, or something like that.
Because it looks good.
Because it looks good doesn't mean
it's good for you.
Exactly. Keep those things in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because trust me, those little things, they come up and you need those, I call them little life lessons.
Yeah.
Those are life lessons, things that are there to help you move past some things in those harder times. So don't let yourself get caught up in something because somebody is sweet talking you and saying some things, to you, and they're saying all the right things.
Yeah.
But be mindful of where it's coming from.
Absolutely.
And rekindle what you feel may have diminished. That flame that has gone down.
Yeah. It needs a little TLC, that's it.
That's all it needs. But I think if you work at it every day, if you're able to work on your communication every single day, it will grow.
Yeah.
I think that book is called, I don't know who the author is, but it's I think it's called Couples Who Pray Together. Or go online and look at the 40-day prayer challenge for couples. I think it'll map out everything that's there for you. And I think it will enhance your communication with one another.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up part 4?
No, just communication is key. It is just so important to be heard. It is so important to be heard.
I concur. So this is going to wrap up our relationship series on communication. And again, like, follow, share the video, give us some comments, let us know what you think. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
See you then.